On the evening news, John Littlefield appeared with a carefully calculated air of authority, sitting with the backdrop of his tribe's reservation in view. His expression was somber as he looked into the camera, the picture of a concerned tribal leader. The interviewer started with a question on his stance regarding Macaulay's placement with California and Sue, two women who were not part of his community. Our tribe is small, John said, his voice steady but filled with conviction. Every member is precious to us, especially our children. We can't afford to lose even a single one of them. Our culture, our heritage, it's all passed down through our people. Macaulay's heritage and identity as a member of our tribe are invaluable, something only we can truly understand. The interviewer pressed him, asking if his tribe had prepared a placement plan or even a family willing to take Macaulay in. John's eyes narrowed slightly, deflecting the question with a careful shift in tone. The specifics of placement are secondary right now, he said firmly. What's most important is that Macaulay remains connected to his people, his land, and his culture. There's something in his heart that belongs with us, and that is why we're so committed to ensuring he's not separated from his heritage. With that, he cast a final look at the camera, letting his words resonate with viewers. He left the implication hanging, creating an emotional appeal that subtly avoided addressing the actual logistics of his claims. The next piece on the news was a press conference. Terry Brant stood at a podium, flanked by supporters and flashing cameras, his expression set and determined. He raised his hand to silence the crowd, then leaned into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice filled with a sense of righteous conviction, "we are facing a crisis in this country. Families are the very foundation of our society, and when they're threatened, our entire way of life is at risk. Now, I've been very clear on where I stand. Children deserve a mother and a father. That's just plain common sense." He paused, letting his words sink in as a murmur of agreement rose from the crowd. The reality is placing children in the homes of same-sex couples. Well, it's not just unconventional. It's dangerous. Children need strong role models, traditional values, and stability. Values that simply can't be provided by two people of the same gender. Terry took a breath, his gaze sweeping over the reporters, his tone growing more intense. "Let's not ignore what we're seeing across the country, folks. There's a rising agenda to normalize lifestyles that we know are harmful to our children. We've seen it in schools, in entertainment, and now even in foster care. These activists are using children to push their agenda, to confuse and destabilize the very foundations of family." He leaned in, his voice lowering for effect. "These children are vulnerable. When we place them in the care of same-sex couples, we're inviting confusion, opening them up to a lifestyle that's proven time and time again to be harmful. And let's be honest, how can we know for sure what goes on in those homes? How do we protect our children from being indoctrinated, groomed, even harmed?" The crowd murmured louder, a mixture of agreement and outrage, as he continued, building his momentum. "This isn't about discrimination. This is about protecting the next generation, about safeguarding innocence, about keeping our children safe and ensuring they're raised with the right values, the values we hold dear." He straightened, his expression solemn. "I'm calling on each and every one of you, and on our legal system, to stand with me on this, to ensure that every child is placed in a home with a mother and a father where they can grow up knowing what's right and what's true." He concluded with a sweeping gesture, raising his arms to the crowd. "Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can protect our children. God bless you all, and God bless America." The crowd erupted into applause, his supporters cheering and chanting, the energy in the room intense. As the cameras captured his final words, Terry Brandt's message rippled across news networks, framing the fight as one of morality, family values, and protecting the children. And the rhetoric, however inflammatory, began to deepen the division in public opinion, fanning the flames of an already heated debate. This was followed by another exclusive aired. This time, the interviewer was seated across from Macaulay's father, seated in the prison's stark visitation room. The atmosphere was heavy, the interviewer expecting a dramatic reaction as she asked how he felt about his son being in the care of a same-sex couple. But Macaulay's father surprised everyone. He leaned forward, his expression one of relief more than anything else. All I want, he said slowly, his voice gruff but sincere, is for my boy to be safe. I'm just grateful he's finally got a roof over his head and two people who care about him. That's more than I ever gave him. The interviewer, a bit taken aback, pressed on. So the fact that he's with a same-sex couple doesn't bother you? Macaulay's father shrugged, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Love is love. If they love him and take care of him, that's all I care about. I made a lot of mistakes. I can't give him a home. But if they can, and if they're keeping him out of trouble and showing him what a real family is, then I'm good with that. He looked into the camera, his voice softening. Macaulay, if you're watching this, I love you, son, and I'm proud of you. You're gonna be okay. Don't you worry about me. The interviewer ended the segment, visibly moved, and the father's words echoed across the airwaves, creating a ripple of empathy among viewers. As Macaulay watched the screen, his hand pressed against the glass, tears streamed down his cheeks. He stared at his father's face, his voice still echoing in the room. Macaulay, if you're watching this, I love you, son, and I'm proud of you. You're gonna be okay. Don't you worry about me. The words, spoken with such warmth and sincerity, broke through all of Macaulay's fears, unraveling the tension that had built up over days of uncertainty. His small, trembling hand stayed on the screen, as if reaching out, feeling the love that his father had sent to him across the distance. California and Sue crouched down on either side of him, wrapping their arms around him, pulling him close. California's voice was soft and full of emotion as she whispered, "We'll take you to see him tomorrow, sweetheart. I promise." Sue hugged him tighter, wiping a tear from her own cheek. "You have a father who loves you, Macaulay. And you have us. You'll always have us." The weight that had lingered over them seemed to lift, replaced by a warmth that filled the room. Macaulay leaned into them, his small body trembling as he let the tears fall. For the first time in what felt like ages, his fears melted away, replaced by a steady, comforting feeling of love. Just then, Robin and Roy entered, taking in the scene, understanding instantly. Without hesitation, they joined the embrace, pulling California, Sue, and Macaulay closer, creating a circle of love and support around him. They all held each other tightly, a family bound by love, lifting one another up through the storm. The anxious, fearful mood that had hung over them, the tension brought by the first two interviews, dissolved in the presence of a father's unconditional love. The hurtful words and dark speculations of others held no power here. In this moment, they were a family, together, safe, and filled with a new hope for the future.